So we have a few news items to touch on around the Ontario Hockey League in regards to suspensions, player commitments, and also the CHL Top 10 ranking. But before we get to that, I wanted to focus on the Ottawa 67's, who have quietly turned their season around, although they're still near the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. Just wanted to highlight how they've been doing of late. Ottawa right now on a 5-game point streak. They're 4-0-1 over their last five. Right now, sitting third in the East Division with 17 points, trying to claw their way out of the Eastern Conference basement. And when you look at the stats, it's kind of surprising to see where Ottawa's at right now. I did the OHL report card yesterday, looking at the league at the quarter mark, and what stood out to me was the fact that the Ottawa 67's, they have the fewest penalty minutes at 162, and to go along with that, they have the league worst penalty kill percentage at 60.4%. This is a team that typically is defense first under Cameron as head coach. But this team, I think, still trying to figure things out. They just got Stonehouse back in the lineup after he signed as a free agent with the Edmonton Oilers. So Ottawa, I think, is still trying to get pieces together. And right now, getting the points. So this 67's team, let's break it down. Over their last 5 games, they started this point streak on the road against the Sudbury Wolves. That was back on October 27th. They defeated Sudbury 6-3, and that win also snapped Ottawa's 7-game losing streak. So Ottawa right now in the first quarter, a bit of a streaky team. They had that 7-game losing streak, now the point streak. After that win against the Sudbury Wolves, they were at home where they defeated the Guelph Storm in overtime 5-3. They then lost at home to Kingston in overtime 4-3, so they still got the point to keep the point streak alive. And then this past week, they won on the road in Kingston by a score of 4-2, and then they defeated Brampton on home ice by a score of 5-1. So you can see there that the momentum really picking up here for the 67's. We'll see how long this lasts, but it really goes through one player in particular. Luca Pinelli, last year one of the top goal scorers in the Ontario Hockey League, and he seems to have found his groove. So looking at the last 5 games, the top 10 point producers for Ottawa, it starts with Pinelli, 8 goals, 5 assists over the 5-game stretch, which is incredible, as Pinelli really putting the team on his back. And I think that's kind of inspiring others on this roster. Second in scoring over the last 5, Henry Muse, 2 goals, 8 assists. Muse a little quiet to start the year, especially after seeing his draft drop at the NHL 2024 draft in Vegas. He kind of went lower than we expected and then got off to a slow start this year, but he's starting to pick it up point-wise here. Third in scoring over the last 5 games, Cooper Foster, 2 goals, 4 assists. Will Giroir, one of the veterans on this team, 4 goals, 1 assist. Jack Dever has 5 assists over the 5 games. Nick Whitehead, a goal and 3 assists. Frankie Morelli, also a goal and 3 assists. Matthew Mayich, a veteran defenseman, 4 assists in the last 5 games. Chris Barlas, 2 goals, 1 assist. And Philip Ekberg, the exciting import from Sweden, a goal and 2 assists over the last 5 games. So you can see there that it is a little top heavy in the points department over these 5 games, because you really have to give Luca Pinelli credit for Ottawa turning things around here. But also in net, they don't really rely on one goalie in particular. They've kind of been having a goaltending rotation between Colin McKenzie and Jaden Nelson, because McKenzie, of course, one of the 4 overagers on the roster, and then Nelson looked at as the future for the Ottawa 67's in net. So for the 2 goaltenders, McKenzie, he has a 2-1 record over this 5-game stretch, or a 2-0-1 record, I should say, and a .917 save percentage. So not too shabby there for McKenzie, but I really like Jaden Nelson's numbers. He's only appeared in 2 games over this point streak. He's 2-0, but a .936 save percentage in those 2 games is pretty impressive from the young goaltender. So Ottawa getting things done by committee. It's been very, well, not by committee, but rather just getting it done right now, getting those points in consecutive games. Coming up this week, they're playing 3 games at home. Wednesday, it's the school day game at Canadian Tire Center against the Kingston Frontenacs. So they got the win last week against Kingston, looking to continue that momentum. Then they're home to Oshawa on Friday, and they host the Owen Sound Attack on Sunday. But then they have a big Western Conference road trip coming out before the end of the month. They start in Sarnia on November 22nd. They're in Windsor on the 23rd. and then London on the 24th. So a very tough 3-3 on the road coming up for the Ottawa 67's. And then they wrap up the month of November on home ice against the Peterborough Petes on the 29th. So it is possible that we'll see this point streak last a few more games, but when you see that road trip coming up, Sarnia, Windsor, London, that's going to be a very tough schedule here for the Ottawa 67's. But if Pinelli continues this hot play, I wouldn't be surprised to see the 67's at least stay competitive and maybe force overtime where they can at least manage a point in some of these upcoming games. So something I wanted to just take a look at. I do like to look at the winning streaks. The London Knights, of course, they're on that 9-game winning streak right now. I touched on their streak last week, so I thought I'd wait and focus on a different team that I don't tend to talk about all too often. But we do have news when it comes to the London Knights today, as the Ontario Hockey League handing out a 5-game suspension to Landon Sim, where he was called out for saying something inappropriate out on the ice. He was given a misconduct at the end of the first period in the game against the Sioux Greyhounds. And according to his agent, he called the opposing player a Mennonite. So because of that, with the league rules, it's a violation of the Code of Conduct in the OHL. They have given him the 5-game suspension. So he already served 2 out of the 5 over the weekend. So he'll be eligible to return against the Owen Sound Attack later this month. But still, Sim, he did get that suspension last year in the playoffs, if you remember. He used a derogatory comment during warm-up towards one of the Saginaw Spirit players, and that ended up having him miss the OHL final. So this is the second time Sim has been suspended for something he said out on the ice. I know there's some who feel that this shouldn't be a suspendable offense because it's chirping and he didn't say anything, something that's been controversial in the past. But still, when you do have the Code of Conduct, you have to follow the rules. And so he's going to have a couple games to think about it, and then Sim will be back. He's actually had a pretty good season since his return to the London Knights, and I'm sure for London, they'll find a way to have the next man up. They had that mentality last year where they were dealing with injuries and suspensions, and they had the next player up to fill that position, and I would expect the same to happen here. But for now, Landon Sim handed a 5-game suspension. Now, the CHL Top 10 dropped earlier today, and for the first time this season, there are only 3 teams from the Ontario Hockey League that made the cut. The Moncton Wildcats from the QMJHL continue to lead the CHL Top 10, followed by the London Knights, who are now number 2 in the country. And of course, they're riding that 9-game point streak, so that's going to put them up the CHL Top 10 rankings. Also making the list, the Windsor Spitfires, they fell to the number 6 position, and the Kitchener Rangers dropped to number 9. So all 3 teams coming from the OHL's Western Conference when it comes to the CHL Top 10 ranking. Now, we do have some news when it comes to player commitments. First off, the Kitchener Rangers getting a bit of a boost as it's been announced that Chicago Blackhawks prospect and Boston University commit Pridham, he's going to be heading to the Kitchener Rangers. And this is going to be a big pickup for Kitchener. In 12 games with the West Kelowna Warriors, he's actually been playing quite steadily for that program. And it's going to be interesting to see how he'll adjust to playing with the Kitchener Rangers, who, of course, right now sitting top spot in the Western Conference. Pridham, he's got a lot of potential, and he's going to probably fit in quite nicely with the likes of Adrian Misljevic, Luca Romano, and Trent Swick, who've all been playing quite well since the Kitchener Rangers turned things around after that slow start to the regular season. So it's we're continuing to see players commit now to the OHL really since that NCAA vote. And from the sounds of it, we should see a few more players make the jump to the Ontario Hockey League. I know there was question marks about the BCHL with Caleb Malhotra. Does he come and join the Brantford Bulldogs? There's also Adam Valentini, who's with the Chicago Steel. Does he come to the OHL to join the Kitchener Rangers? It sounds like there's a transfer agreement that has to be made if a player is going to leave the USHL, and it sounds like the price tag that the Chicago Steel is putting on Valentini is kind of high, but we'll wait and see if that, in fact, transpires that Valentini will join the Kitchener Rangers this season or potentially next year. We'll have to wait and see, but still, expect a few more players to make the jump from their respective leagues, the USHL, BCHL, and joining the OHL, now that CHL players can play in the NCAA going forward. And with that, we also got Kalen Mangoni of the Saginaw Spirit. He announced last night on social media that he is committed to play for Lake Superior State, which, of course, is across the border from Sault Ste. Marie, his hometown. So he's going to be bringing his hockey play to Lake Superior State next season. He's in his overage season. Mangoni's been playing quite well this season in 18 games. He's got 10 Spirit, they're playing really well. He's got 8 goals, 13 assists, 21 points so far this season. So Mangoni, a really solid player, and he's going to join the NCAA starting next season. So that's how I see it from the booth. A few news items to touch on here. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the Ottawa 67's streak, the Sim suspension, or your thoughts even on some of the changes since we've announced the NCAA vote that CHL players could go on to play in that league. Thanks again for all your support, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.